And if we have others join us, we'll just, let them come in. They can join during the meditation. So welcome, everyone. My name is Ashley Dinges, and I'm one of the co-founders and hosts of the weekly Dharma Gathering. And tonight, we are very pleased to have Justin Miles with us, teaching us, guiding us through meditation, and having a discussion as well after the talk, which is titled tonight, Realizing Black Enlightened Society. So as you can see, the session is being recorded. And if you don't want to be on video, you can turn it off, you can leave it on. But do know that if you ask a question, it'll be recorded. And if you don't want your question to be recorded, you can also send it in the chat box. And you're welcome to talk in the chat box at any time throughout tonight too. So please go ahead and do that. And then for those of you who have registered, this recording will be accessed on your account tomorrow. And if you log into your account, you'll see it in your purchase products page, and you'll also receive an email notification once it's posted. So with all that said, it is my pleasure to introduce Justin. Justin has practiced meditation for 28 years and is a teacher and practitioner in the Shambhala Vajrayana Buddhist tradition. His primary interest is the organization, mobilization, and education and upliftment of Black people brought about through the direct experience of their nature found in meditation and community. To help bring this about, Justin created the practice liturgy titled The Sadhana of Awakened Melanin, designed to center Black people around their inner, outer, and secret Black power. Justin facilitates meditation retreats and teaches courses on Buddhism and meditation throughout the DC and Baltimore area. He's the creator and the facilitator of the Black Power Meditation Group and teaches meditation to inmates at Maryland's Hartford County Jail. In his spare time, he works as a psychotherapist in private practice, writes about the intersection of hip-hop culture and contemplative studies, and as we just witnessed, he also produces hip-hop music under the name Jehu Worldwide. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Justin, and please teach us tonight.
Thank you very much, Ashley, for that introduction. Again, my name is Justin Forrest Miles. An elder told me a long time ago that when you introduce yourself, you should introduce your family too, because without them, you wouldn't be here. And I stand on their shoulders as well. So I'm Justin F. Miles. I'm the son of Elise Bebbs, a registered nurse, Clyde Miles, a retired CBS News director. I'm the grandson of Albert Bebbs and Doretha Bebbs, both who were nuclear physicists, and the grandson of Herman Miles and Bertha Miles. And Herman fought in World War II, worked for the Department of Defense, and eventually went into real estate. And my grandmother raised 9 children. And so I also want to recognize I'm the father of Dayla Eden Miles, my 10-year-old daughter, who turned 10 on Monday. And I just want to recognize where I come from and the proud family that helped me to be who I am. So I figured we could start with a meditation, maybe a meditation and a contemplation. I'd like it if we could sit for maybe 5 minutes. And after that, if we could engage in a contemplation practice. And I'd like it if we could contemplate the title of this talk, which is Realizing Enlightened Black Society. Regardless of who you are, where you come from, or what you look like, I'd like for you to engage in this practice. And excuse me, let me say something else. For those who are not familiar with contemplation practice, I learned contemplation practice from a Catholic priest who also is a Buddhist. So he taught me the practice of Lectio Divina about 20 years ago. And I found it to be an important practice, as well as the contemplation practice that I've learned through the Shambhala Buddhist tradition. So, very simply, the practice of contemplation involves using our conceptual mind to kind of flesh out wisdom, usually in a text. It doesn't have to be a text. You actually could contemplate anything. And the process is one of placing your mind on the on a line of the text or on what you're trying to contemplate, and to just say it internally, and just let it resonate throughout your mind. It's like saying it. The way it was explained to me is it's like throwing a rock in a calm lake, and you have the kind of the concentric rings that come off of that, right? So you'll say the phrase, realizing enlightened Black society, and when that begins to dissipate, then you'll say it again, and at a certain point of your choosing, then you'll begin to again kind of ask questions, seeing what kind of jumps out at you. Is it the word, one of the words, realizing enlightened Black society? Is it the whole line? And begin to actually think about it. Allow questions to form and arise. Kind of allow your mind to chew on it a bit. And then after something has arisen from there, some spark of insight has arisen, allow your mind to rest on that, and eventually return back to kind of formal meditation practice. And so we'll do this over a period of about 20 minutes, and maybe I'll ring the gong after about 5 minutes to indicate the beginning of the contemplation. And of course, before contemplation practice, before looking, it's important to rest the mind. So we'll practice shamatha meditation, calm abiding meditation. So I'll give those brief instructions. If you would take a relaxed upright posture, whether if you're on a cushion, center yourself on your cushion. If you're on a chair, center yourself on a chair. Unless you have challenges with your back, try and keep your back off the chair, sit a little forward. If you're on your cushion, cross your legs loosely in front of you. If you're sitting in a chair, make sure your legs are at a 90-degree angle. You can elongate your spine, point the top of your head towards the ceiling. You can place your hands right above your knees, your lower thighs. Your head is level with your shoulders. Your chin is slightly tucked in, about at a 45-degree angle. Your eyes are open, yet relaxed, not fixed on anything. We're just allowing whatever is in our natural environment to arise. Our jaws are relaxed. You can place your tongue behind the top row of your teeth. And the second part of the practice is establishing the object of meditation. We're going to place all of our attention on the full inhalation and exhalation, all of the usual attention that we would give to our sense perceptions to reach out into our world and bring in information. We are now keeping all of that awareness focused on the full cycle of breathing, mixing our mind with our breath. And the third part of the instruction is how we regard thoughts. Again, thoughts, in this practice, there's no good thoughts or nothing that we're trying to cultivate, nothing that we're trying to abandon. We're letting the mind rest within itself in its natural state. So we're just allowing the process of thinking to be what it is. Thoughts will arise, they will hold space for a second, and then they will go away to wherever thoughts go. Okay. So the instruction is when your mind wanders, bring your attention back to the breath, right? That act itself is the practice of meditation. Okay. So I will ring the gong, and then in about 5 minutes, I will ring it again to begin the contemplation practice. Again, just bring to mind realizing enlightened Black society. Let it dissipate, and say it again, let it dissipate. After some time, begin to allow your mind to kind of, again, chew on it a bit, kind of squeeze out the essence of it, and then allow your mind to rest with whatever has come up for you. And then we'll return back to the sitting practice of shamatha. Okay. begin the contemplation practice. Feel free to shut your eyes if you want. Realizing enlightened Black society.
I know. Oh.
Okay, we can stop the contemplation practice. So I'm very interested in hearing what came up for people. No matter what came up for people, no, no judgment as to what came up for you. And maybe we can talk about that later. If you like, you can send me an email and let me know. I think it's important for me to contemplate what realizing enlightened Black society means, because I think for a long time, Black people have operated from another model, from someone else's model, usually from the model of white supremacy. And since I really started studying the Buddha Dharma about 20 years ago, that was the question that came up for me the most. It was, what does this have to do? What do these teachings have to do with me? What do these teachings have to do with my people? What have to do with my everyday situation? When I look around, when I look out my window, the home I'm sitting in right now, there've been 2 murders, right outside of my home. And I don't mean right outside of my home, like up the street. I mean, like literally outside of my home, where police are taping off my home. So, what do these teachings have to do with that? And so after a while, I realized that if these teachings were going to have any benefit to Black people, that I couldn't sit around and wait for someone else to tell me how that was going to happen. I had to begin to ask the questions for myself. And so I began to look at the teachings of the Buddha and ask myself, how can these teachings be more palatable to Black people? How can they speak to the Black experience? How can they help to cultivate a sense of value and pride in our lineage, and helping us to experience and come to the realization that we're not just here to to embrace another culture or someone else's way of being. We're here actually to realize within ourselves our own nature, and we're here to realize that as our relative selves in our families and our communities. And so that was the view that I began to operate out of, and kind of consumed me. And so I said, well, let's experiment a bit. So to that effect, I started writing. I began writing chants in 2005, and not really knowing what I was doing, but kind of trusting my gut, and of course making sure that whatever I was doing was in alignment with the teachings, and it was something that I feel that both my personal ancestral lineage would be proud of, but also my Buddhist lineage would be proud of, that my teachers would be proud of. And so I began to write, and I can't say that I'm 100% sure about taking these traditional teachings and making them more palatable to Black people. I don't know. I have no idea. And I guess its efficacy will be measured in, you know, maybe in the future one day someone will say, hey, I practiced these things and I really got something out of it. I don't know. All I know is that I can't wait. I can't wait. Not only am I suffering, but I witness my people suffering every day. And I also witness our attempts at getting the world to care about Black people. We've done so much to get this country to care. We've done so much to get white America to care, just to be treated with dignity and decency, being a talented 10th, protesting for our rights, voting, dying, right, fighting for this country. We've done so much. And so, I began to say, well, what if we just stopped doing that, right? What if we realized what we have? What if we realize what we are, right? Realize our own nature and realize the wisdom in the things that we already naturally do. The wisdom in hip hop culture, the wisdom in our rituals and just sharing meals together, the wisdom in our language, in our dress, in the way that we communicate, the way we interact. Why not wake up using our own everyday experience, right? Seeing the sacred within our everyday experience. So eventually, I kept writing texts and I organized them into a text that I call the Sadhana of Awakened Melanin. And again, I realized, I'm no Mahasiddha, or enlightened person by any means. But I felt that it was necessary to create a practice liturgy that could be practiced on a regular basis, whether individually or as a group, in order for Black people to not just experience their fundamental nature, but also to experience, again, the wisdom and the sanity in our everyday experience. One of those practices I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to check the time because I know you don't have a whole bunch of time. So one of those practices is based on a preliminary practice that many of you may already be familiar with. It's called the 4 thoughts that turn the mind toward the Dharma. I've also seen it written, the 4 thoughts that turn the mind from samsara, but it operates from the Hinayana view that we are all caught up in ignorance, right? In particular, ignorance of ourselves and what we truly are. And the idea is that our minds are turned in another direction, usually towards some self-defeating behavior or self-defeating view. And that to turn the mind towards the Dharma or the truth, I use the word sanity in this practice. That to turn our minds toward that sanity, it's important for us to kind of contemplate our situation, contemplate and reevaluate if we are thinking clearly or thinking confused. Right? And so I'm going to go through this practice somewhat quickly. Maybe I'll have an opportunity to do this more slowly at another time. But I'm going to read the 4 parts of the four thoughts and just discuss them for a second. So this is the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards sanity. In the Sadhana of Awakened Melanin, it is in the section called the main practice. And the subtitle is the 3 faces of the sacred, which we can get into another time. So the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards sanity. The first is, of course, traditionally it is the preciousness of human birth. Of course, not taking it as an assumption that I had to be born human, and also appreciating that I was born human, so that I could practice. Right, the human realm is thought to be kind of in between, realms where there's either too much suffering to be able to practice or too much pleasure to be able to practice. And so being fortunate to be born in this human body. And I thought it was important to look at the preciousness of our African or Black birth, the preciousness of being born a Black person, that there's value in this Black body, there's value in this Black skin, there's value in this Black experience. I remember growing up and, some people would say, man, I wish I were white, or you look around and you see white people having all the good stuff. You're like, man, if I could just trade places. But no, there's value in your body and in your human birth as an African person. Excuse me. So I'll read this very quickly. Despite the seeming insanity in our homes, communities, and place of birth, and historical mistreatment of our people, I am fortunate to be born an African or Black person in this human body and at this time. It did not have to be so. This life is so precious and easily lost that to be of benefit to my people, I must live with sanity and practice awakening to my nature. So the idea, of course, is to contemplate each one of these. But again, the first of the 4 thoughts here is a call to Black people to appreciate the fact that you were born as you are, right? As you are, and not need to be any different, anything different, or need to be anyone different, right? And so, again, the idea is to contemplate each one of these, and then to, as we did earlier on with the contemplation practice, to begin to flesh it out. It's not just to necessarily chant these stanzas, but to allow your mind to mix with them and say, well, what does this mean? How much do I appreciate this being born in this body, right? And the practice of the 4 thoughts is also connected to motivation, right? The more that I can appreciate the preciousness of this human birth, the more I don't want to waste it, the more I want to do something with it, the more I want to be helpful and beneficial to others with it. So how can I use the blessing of being born as a Black person to the benefit of other people? To Black people, definitely, but to all people, right? How is it that I can use that to be of benefit to people? So the second of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards sanity is, of course, impermanence and death. It reads, all things that have a beginning have an end. All things, including myself, are coming into and fading from existence in every moment. The state of our bodies, our families, our communities, nation, and homeland are all temporal, which means that our situations can and will change. Knowing this, I will awaken to sanity with the blessed time I've been given and use my time to be of benefit to my people. I want to point out, just going back a bit, that when I read these, sometimes I see that they're the opposite of the view of white supremacy, that the view of the preciousness of human birth from a white supremacist perspective is the preciousness of whiteness. Right? It's the preciousness of being born in this white body, not to necessarily appreciate appreciate it for what it fundamentally is, but for who it can take advantage of because of its privilege. And it's the same thing, I think, with all of these, with impermanence and death, that the view of kind of time from the white supremacist perspective, right, is definitely permanence, right? It's permanence, it's fixation, it's fixedness. This can't change, this shouldn't change, right? We need to be in power and in charge with our ways and our practices as long as humanly possible. Right? So from the perspective of this text, it's saying that, of course, to remember that all things are impermanent, right? All things that have beginning have an end, all things that are subject to the laws of conditioned existence, and anything that has a cause or condition for existence, once those causes and conditions fall out of existence, that thing will cease to exist. So it still holds on to that fundamental Buddhist view of impermanence, but it also says that our situations are temporary. No matter what we see around us, again, our communities, the way that we treat each other, the way that we've been treated, the state of our schools, the state of our ecology. Right? All of those things are subject to change. There is no fixity, there's no fixedness anywhere. That all things can change. So again, it's also a call to action to realize that all things can change. And because my time here is very limited, how can I use this time to be of benefit to my people and help to change some of those situations that seem so permanent to us? The next one is karma. It says, through my actions, I influence the direction of my own life and the future of my people. This is what is known as karma. Karma is not magical. It is the reaping of seeds that I have planted in my mind through my actions, speech, and thoughts that result in causing myself and others suffering. To live a sane life and to create sanity in the life of others, I will speak, think, and act from my nature, fundamental goodness. Again, the view of white supremacy is screw karma. Screw karma, right? It's unashamed in its actions. It's unaccountable in the results of those actions, for the results of those actions. And so it says, I can operate with impunity. I can do whatever it is that I want to do, and there's no repercussions. And from the standpoint, of course, of the practice, again, it maintains the view that our behaviors, our thoughts, our words all plant seeds, right, in our mind, which, right, with given the right care and condition, will flower. We will reap what we sow. And so because we will reap what we sow, we need to be mindful of our actions, our speech, and our thoughts. And we need to consider how they're being of benefit to our people, or they are causing harm to our people. The last one is called the defects of mundane existence, sometimes called the defects of samsara, sometimes called the disadvantages of samsara. Basically, samsara doesn't work. That's the that's the crux of this this thought, this four thoughts, is that samsara doesn't work, right? It is a never-ending cycle of suffering. And from the white supremacist perspective, samsara is the way to be, right? It's endless greed, endless appropriation, right? It is endless aggression and ignorance to anything that doesn't support its view. Okay. So the text reads, "Our people have been convinced that happiness exists in another place and in another time. The search for stability through material gain, intelligence, and spiritual materialism is never ending. I will never find true happiness there. The attachment to pleasure seeking, aggression, and self-ignorance is never ending as well. I will never find happiness there either. Searching for happiness where there is none is an insane effort. Instead, I will give up the search and strive to awaken to the happiness that is well-being." So again, it is a call to Black people who find themselves caught up in the cycle of suffering, caught up in the three poisons, right? To begin to really contemplate, right, whether or not it's actually producing happiness or if it's producing more suffering. And excuse me if you hear my messenger going off. I didn't cut off the notification. But it's a call for Black people to pay attention to the things that we are attached to, that are unhealthy and that foster fixation, and that turn our minds away from the truth of what it is that we're doing. So again, that's the four thoughts that turn the mind towards sanity. Again, the idea is to turn the mind from, of course, views that are unhealthy, behaviors that are unhealthy, towards a sane view. Right? And I decided to alter this practice because I really find it very important. I know it's called a foundation practice, but for me, it's it's a worthwhile practice in and of itself. Just the what I get out of it, and so I created this practice, or I redesigned this practice, and I've done that with some other texts that are common in the Shambhala Buddhist tradition, and some other texts I decided to create from scratch because I thought that they were important. And again, all of this is just an experiment. This is just an experiment. I don't know the fruition of this. What I do know is that now more than ever, it's important to take control of your vision, for yourself and for whoever it is that you whoever it is that you come from, right? Whoever it is that you can influence. Right? For me, that's Black people from a Black family. I live in a Black city. My work centers around Black people, and that's just who I am, and that's just who I'm around. So if I could, encourage you to do anything, it's to be brave enough to rouse the confidence to do something that may seem wild or outrageous, but that you think will be a benefit to yourself or someone else that you think would benefit from it. For me, that was creating these practices and working with these practices. And so I think it's completely fine for you to do the same thing, to begin to look at the practices that you engage in and see what, or if or anything, could be different about them. I also want to say that we use these practices in Baltimore at the Black Power Meditation Group. And again, I was looking for a way to center the members of the group, both around their nature and also around the beauty and the importance of our Black existence, both to ourselves and to this world. And the Black Power Meditation Group has been, it's come with its own set of challenges and struggles, because for me, that's actually, that's the work of realizing enlightened Black society, realizing in that we're not creating it necessarily. We're realizing it because it's already here, right? It's already within our nature, it's already within our culture, it's already within our social organizations. It's already here, right? And so it's important to get people in the room, right? To get a group of Black people together and say, well, what's here? What do we have? Right? What do we have? Because we're not asking for anything. We're not asking for nothing, right? We're not even, trying to fight white supremacy. That's not the goal of this group, right? That's not the goal. The goal is to come together and recognize that there's benefit in getting together in community, sharing a meal, practicing, studying, and seeing what we could do with that energy. How could we take that energy out into our families and into our worlds? But it hasn't been easy. All Black people ain't alike, right? So you get everybody in the room together and you realize that, we all come from different places. We all have our own idiosyncrasies. As we like to say, we got shit with us, right? So, allowing ourselves to kind of rub up against the sharp edges of our egos and our conditioning, and hopefully over time, like coming together again and again and again, kind of wear away those sharp edges, kind of round out those sharp edges. We begin to learn what it means to try and build society from the ground up. For now, we just meet as a meditation and study group. Very soon, there will be a political group, political wing to the Black Power Meditation Group. We have scheduled that first group for November 2nd. We will be discussing what is the discussion about? Mindfulness in mindfulness in schools, or teaching mindfulness to Black children, and who should be doing that, and what view should be taken, and are we teaching mindfulness from a Eurocentric model, a Eurocentric perspective? How are those Eurocentric models of mindfulness being funded, and how they connected to those in political power? So we will be doing that. And we have other ideas, of course, for an LGBTQ group, a group for healers, social workers, counselors, a white ally group, because the Black Power Meditation Group does not operate on the basis of racism. Like the Black Panther said, you can't fight racism with racism, right? It doesn't work that way. So we're not racist. And we definitely seek to forge relationships with groups that have the same kind of underlying principles and philosophies in common that we do. And so the idea is to first kind of see who's in the room, kind of create a pool of people, and then to say, like, well, what do you want to do with this? Where are you in this? Where's your experience in this? And if it ain't here, well, let's create it. Let's make it, right? And if we don't know what we're doing, good, cool. Let's do it. Let's make mistakes, and then we'll pick up the pieces later, and we'll figure it out. But first and foremost, what's most important is for us to develop a vision of us on our own, through our own eyes. Nobody can see for us. Nobody can see for us, right? So using the natural faculties of resting the mind, using the natural faculties of insight, right? Beginning to gain a greater understanding of what Black power truly is, what it truly is, right? Not power over, not domination, so we begin to ask ourselves, like, what is it, and what does it feel like, and how do we wield it? What do we do with it? So I think that's enough. Oh no, it's 7:58. So I'll stop there, and if there's time for any questions or comments or wisecracks, I'll take them now. But thank you very much for letting me speak with you and meet with you. Whoever's out there, I don't know, but I'm glad that you showed up, and I'd like to thank Ashley and thank Dr. Shantae Smalls, and I'd like to thank Acharya Galen Ferguson for your support and for your kindness and for your encouragement. So thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Vanessa. I'm in Beacon, New York right now. And
Hey, Vanessa.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that talk and that meditation. So I wanted to share a little bit. You said at the beginning before you started your talk of like you're interested in hearing what came up for people during the contemplation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was having a hard time staying still and like contemplating that and decided to actually do some writing instead during it.
Okay. Right.
Sorry. And I went into just kind of writing, like what is realizing an enlightened Black society? And I kind of came through with like, I have no idea what it looks like. And I went into what it might feel like and going into like just everyday things. So it's funny that in your talk, you were kind of talking like, yeah, it's here already. Like a point of like enjoying what's happening right now and being aware of our conditioning and the stuff that you were saying. So I just wanted to share that experience with everyone.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
I was hoping I could put a couple of cents in here. Um, One of the things that came through my mind was, I think, corrected by you as you spoke after the meditation, and the thing that started to come out was, well, can there be an enlightened society, white or black, as long as
Yeah.
as those of us who are white are maintaining the status quo that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then you, I think, correctly pointed out that the enlightened society, that the enlightenment is there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I was thinking in the context of surrender, which is something I've been thinking about in the past few weeks, and that I have to realize and surrender those um, um, ingrown, inherent habits of supremacy that
Mm-hmm.
I have.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to affect, though, Black enlightenment, the realization of Black society, Black enlightened society?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question. My question to you would be, does it matter? Does it matter that it has an impact on Black enlightened society if you surrender those things? Could it just be a benefit to yourself, or could it be a benefit to white people? Because I'm pro that too. You know what I mean? Some people think I'm joking, but I tell them, I say no. I think that there should be white power, just not white power over, just not white domination, but there should be a deep appreciation for those in your ancestral lineage who were warriors, or who were compassionate, or who were hopeful, or who just, all the things that we talk about, who were able to go beyond hope and fear, those who stood up for all people. And white people need to organize around that and cultivate some healthy sense of white power. Fred Hampton Jr. Of the Black Panther Party in Chicago, Illinois, he said, "White power for white people, black power for black people, red power for red people, yellow power for yellow people." And I completely agree with that. That somehow we've kind of lost this healthy sense of appreciation for who we are, and instead we've allowed ourselves to, appreciate the neurotic or the unhealthy aspects of our ancestors, especially again in America. But I don't think that has to happen. I think that there needs to be groups of white people who help to overturn white lies, that don't engage in any more kind of white legend making through, shit like the founding fathers, slave owners. Yeah. I'm great you founded a country, but, don't, let's not skip over the other stuff, And so, but.
It also founded the racism.
Say again, also
Also
founded
racism, and tried to build it into, or tried to build science into it, and tried to.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And religion. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yep.
And what occurs to me, and it was occurring to me as I was doing the contemplation exercise, is that it's a delicate line to tread if white people start to equate their suffering with the suffering of all of the Native Americans and the Black people that we killed over time.
Yes.
That's a tricky thing. Yeah, some sorrows for all of us, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of damage that was caused there, and
Yeah.
you have to be careful not to make ourselves, what would be the equivalent, the samsaric equivalent of all lives matter, all suffer, we all suffer.
That's right. Yep.
Can't quite go
And
there.
that's true. That's true. And just like all lives matter is true, right? It's true, right? But that doesn't discount the fact that all lives aren't treated the same, right? And so just like all suffering isn't treated the same.
Well, all lives matter has become a rubric that means something very different.
Sure.
So,
Agreed. But thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. And thank you for showing up to the talk. Thank you, Sheena. Uh-oh. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was just curious if you're working on any other practices or chants
And
for the future.
who's speaking?
This is Ashley.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry, Ashley. I didn't recognize your voice.
No, that's okay.
We just met today. We just
That's true. That's true. That's true.
It's interesting you said that. I'm working on a visualization practice, similar to other Vajrayana practices that we engage in, that involve the Utpadikrama and Sampanikrama stages, where we would visualize an individual. I'm thinking about Malcolm X, and in the same way that we visualize in deity practice, kind of a almost like a mandala, or kind of a a deity with his retinue and iconography and so on and so forth. I would like to create. I'm working on creating something like that, using Malcolm X as the central figure, where we arouse energy, visualize this enlightened image, visualizing this image merging with ourselves, symbolizing that this is already a part of our nature, and then bringing that whatever realization arose or experience arose into your everyday life. And so, I've thought about this for some time, because for many of us, it gets difficult, or more difficult, to experience the energy of an ancestor. One, of course, the longer they've been gone. But two, of course, you may not even have known this person. I didn't know Malcolm X. My father was a follower of Malcolm X, but I never, of course, I'm not old enough. But for me, he's, Ozzie Davis calls Malcolm X our shining black prince. And to me, that's who he is. Like he is, I can't think of another embodiment of not just what it means to be a Black person, but what it means to be a human being who grows beyond adversity, who grows beyond unhealthy views. He grew beyond even racism. You know what I mean? And so, when I look in terms of Black history, who kind of went on the complete journey of exploring and encountering his humanity, Malcolm is that person for me. And so, and for others, it may be someone else, and that's perfectly fine. But I think what's most important is that we don't lose contact. We don't lose contact with our ancestors, and with what they still have to offer, both in their lives when they were alive, and now that they're not here, right? That we can still connect with them. And so I want to, in the same way as we learn in Vajrayana practices, to visualize these deific images, and to incorporate them into our being and see them as ourselves, as our being. I would like to do that with Black figures too, because for me, they were that great. And to me, they, and these were real people. It's not to dismiss it or to diss any deities, but the people I'm talking about are real people, real people who did real things for Black people. And so I'm hoping it actually makes it even more easy to connect to. And I'm also hoping not to lose the, I don't want to create practices that somehow lose the true intent of the original practice. And that's something that I try and be hyper cautious of, because I find value in the traditional practice. But I try very hard to not have it lose that, but it's something that needs to be, it's not something you just can sit down and, and just write in one fell swoop. I have done that, but I need to give these things very careful care and attention to make sure that I'm respecting the lineage and respecting my teachers as well.
Maybe you'll come back to the weekly Dharma gathering when you're done.
I
We'd
hope
love
so.
to have you come back. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it as you work on it and finish it. And I think I know we're running out of time, but something that you said early on, and we talked about this on the phone earlier today, was that I really admire is that you're just doing it. You're creating these practices, you're putting these contemplations out there, and that all of us can just do something, and we don't have to wait. And that was part of the inspiration behind this series of talks too, is that some of us just felt like there are voices that we're not hearing that we want to hear, and what if we just did it? and just start with like 4 of us and just see what happens. And so we really appreciate you coming on tonight and being part of the weekly Dharma gathering. And for those of our friends who are watching after, they'll have to come back next time because they missed your performance at the beginning. So incentive to tune in live going forward.
You let me know. Now that's one thing. I'll come back here and beatbox anytime. You just let me know.
Well, we want that's got to be part of the next one, I think. Like planned, not unplanned. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for teaching us tonight, and I really appreciated it. It was one of my favorite talks that I've been able to host so far. And if you're watching later, if you're watching the recording, you can tune in your Vimeo account. If you go to purchase programs, you should see the link. And I also want to just invite everyone to join us next week as well. We have one of our co-founders giving her first talk on the weekly Dharma gathering. That's Adriana DeFazio, and she's giving a talk titled Dharma as Lifestyle, Expanding Our Path. So if you have time and can come back, we would love to see you again next week. And just once more, I want to thank you, Justin, and thank everyone who came tonight and who shared and participated with us.
Thank you, Ashley, for your gentleness and your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So is there a way we close, or?
No, this is however we want to.
Well, again, thank you again, and I hope to be back again.
Thanks,
and thank you to everyone who showed up.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.